Napoleon wasn't just ambitious. He had an unshakable belief in himself. This belief wasn't pride or arrogance. It was pure confidence. Confidence that made him fearless, that pushed him forward when others would have turned back. In his own clear words, Napoleon said, "Impossible is a word to be found only in the dictionary of fools." For him, obstacles were opportunities in disguise, and difficulties were invitations to show strength. Circumstances did not define his destiny, and he shaped his own path through sheer determination and hard work. John D. Rockefeller later remarked about him, "It is hard to imagine Napoleon as a businessman, but if he had applied himself to commerce, he would have been the greatest businessman the world has ever known." His strength wasn't accidental. It was built on meticulous preparation, endless hours mastering strategy, warfare, and human nature. He deeply valued courage, believing that courage cannot be counterfeited. It is one virtue that escapes hypocrisy. As a young man arriving in France from the island of Corsica with no connections and little money, his inner fire propelled him beyond every disadvantage. Against overwhelming odds in Europe's mightiest armies, he remained calm, famously stating, "I have always thought that a sovereign should never admit the possibility of failure." This determination inspired loyalty in his soldiers, who trusted his leadership even in defeat. Exiled to Elba, stripped of his empire, he remained resolute, asserting, "Death is nothing, but to live defeated and inglorious is to die daily." For him, failure was temporary, a stepping stone toward future victories. He showed the world that true confidence can shape history itself. If confidence was his driving force, attention to detail was his secret weapon. He understood that the smallest things could decide battles and change empires, so he became a master of details others overlooked. He once emphasized, "To be a good general, you must know mathematics. It teaches how to think logically." He didn't require complex calculations from his commanders. He sought clear, logical thinking. Every decision he made was careful and deliberate, considering every possible outcome. On the battlefield, he accounted for everything: the exact number of boots, daily bread rations, even the speed of cannon fire. He famously reminded his officers, "An army marches on its stomach." Victory at battles like Austerlitz came from this careful preparation, detailed maps, and intimate knowledge of terrain. His enemies often felt he had supernatural insight, but in reality, his advantage was meticulous planning. This meticulous nature wasn't limited to war. He personally oversaw the Napoleonic Code, simplifying complex laws into clear rules that strengthened his empire's foundation. Yet this obsession occasionally slowed decisions, burdening him and exhausting those around him. Even critics admitted his unmatched grasp on detail, recognizing that for him, nothing is more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide. His legacy showed the power of paying attention, not only dreaming big, but perfecting every small step along the way. His greatest genius wasn't simply strategic brilliance. It was a profound insight into human hearts. He knew precisely what moved people, inspired them, and held their loyalty. As he explained, "A leader is a dealer in hope." Understanding that soldiers needed more than orders, he offered them a powerful vision of glory and honor. They followed him through deserts, snowstorms, and deadly combat because he made their struggles meaningful. Yet he also knew practical realities. He declared plainly, "Men are moved by two levers only: fear and self-interest." By rewarding bravery generously and punishing betrayal swiftly, he balanced these two powerful motivators. Talent, not status or birth, mattered most to him. He said clearly, "Ability is nothing without opportunity." He promoted deserving men regardless of background, earning fierce loyalty by seeing potential others ignored. Beyond the battlefield, he applied this wisdom broadly, simplifying laws, building schools, improving infrastructure. His clear understanding of what people needed made his rule firm yet popular. His grasp of human nature wasn't without flaws. Occasionally, his deep confidence caused him to underestimate resistance. Still, his true genius was clear: A leader doesn't merely command, but understands, motivates, and inspires. By speaking directly to the hopes and fears deep within human hearts. He was more than a powerful leader, he was an insatiable learner. Knowledge for him was power itself. He declared, "Show me a family of readers, and I will show you the people who move the world." Books were his companions. While others rested, he studied history, philosophy, geography, and tactics. Skeptical and questioning, he remarked, "History is a set of agreed-upon lies." His constant questioning and critical thinking allowed him to discover deeper truths and practical lessons. Even amid military campaigns, he brought along libraries, always reading, always learning. Henry Ford described such an approach perfectly. A man's real education begins after he has left school. True education is gained through the discipline of life. Knowledge gave him the confidence to win battles and shape societies. He instructed his generals clearly, "Read over and over again the campaigns of Alexander, Hannibal, Caesar, Gustavus, Turenne, Eugene, and Frederick. Model yourself on them. That is the only way to become a great general." His intellectual curiosity stretched beyond warfare. He interacted closely with scientists, writers, and philosophers, constantly absorbing new ideas. His greatest lesson remains clear. Leaders never stop learning. Knowledge isn't merely preparation for greatness, it is the road to it. At his core was a burning ambition that propelled him relentlessly forward. His dreams knew no limits, pushing him to achievements beyond ordinary imagination. He boldly stated, "Great ambition is the passion of a great character. Those endowed with it may perform very good or very bad acts. All depends on the principles which direct them." Born in Corsica, far from Europe's center of power, he understood greatness wouldn't come easily. Driven by a need to leave an eternal legacy, he openly confessed, "Glory is fleeting, but obscurity is forever." He aimed to build something lasting and unforgettable. His victories only increased his hunger, prompting him to reshape entire continents. However, ambition carried risks. He wisely cautioned, "Men are more easily governed through their vices than through their virtues." Eventually, his own boundless ambition became his vulnerability, overextending resources in costly invasions, like the tragic campaign in Russia. Yet even in defeat and exile, his spirit never dimmed. He insisted bravely, "It requires more courage to suffer than to die." Accepting setbacks and sacrifice, he proved ambition itself was noble. His life taught the world a powerful lesson. Ambition guided by courage and wisdom can reshape destinies. He showed clearly that greatness requires reaching far beyond the ordinary, to heights most dare not imagine. To lead thousands of men into battle, often against overwhelming odds, takes more than strategy and courage. It demands a profound gift for command. For him, leadership wasn't about giving orders. It was about inspiring trust, respect, and loyalty. He once stated clearly, "A general's most important talent is to know the minds of the soldiers." He understood intuitively that soldiers followed leaders who showed strength, decisiveness, and compassion. Every soldier felt seen by him. From the bravest officers to the humblest infantrymen, they knew he shared their hardships, understood their struggles, and fought alongside them. During battle, he would personally ride out to meet his troops, speaking directly to them, encouraging them by name, making them feel their sacrifices mattered. His simple presence on the front lines often turned despair into hope and hesitation into courage. He didn't command from distant tents. He led from the heart of battle. He declared, "10 people who speak make more noise than 10,000 who are silent." He knew a leader's words carry enormous weight, that his voice was as powerful as any weapon. He used words carefully, precisely, and passionately, motivating soldiers and intimidating opponents. He was deeply aware that morale could change battles more than numbers or weapons ever could. Yet he also understood that true authority doesn't rest solely on inspiring speeches. Soldiers followed him because of his clear and decisive actions, because he knew exactly what he wanted and precisely how to get it. He once said, "Take time to deliberate, but when the time for action has arrived, stop thinking and go in." This decisiveness inspired confidence. His generals and soldiers trusted his judgment, even in moments of crisis. They knew that his orders were never given lightly, that every decision came from thorough consideration and careful planning. But he also understood that no leader can do everything alone. He carefully selected commanders, placing trust in capable men. While he demanded strict discipline, he gave them responsibility and freedom, knowing that trust and respect would motivate them to exceed expectations. He valued initiative, courage, and independent thinking, often repeating, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake." Understanding the power of patience and timing, he gave his generals space to act, adapt, and seize opportunities as they arose. Of course, his style of command was not without flaws. His insistence on perfection and control could sometimes wear heavily on his commanders, and his powerful personality often overshadowed other opinions. Yet even his critics agreed his effectiveness was undeniable, his ability to inspire loyalty unmatched. Ultimately, his leadership style continues to teach a powerful lesson. Command is an art. It requires clarity, courage, decisiveness, and empathy. His approach, rooted deeply in his understanding of human nature and relentless pursuit of excellence, made him not just a great general, but one of history's greatest commanders. Every great leader eventually faces defeat. What defines them isn't the fall, but how they rise afterward. For him, setbacks were never endings. They were moments to regroup, rebuild, and return stronger. He observed, the greatest danger occurs at the moment of victory. He knew victory could breed complacency, but defeat ignited determination. After his catastrophic invasion of Russia, losing tens of thousands of men to hunger, cold, and battle, many thought he was finished. His enemies celebrated, convinced his days of glory were over. Yet even in the shadow of disaster, he saw possibilities. In exile on the island of Elba, stripped of his empire and far from power, he didn't surrender to despair. Instead, he transformed defeat into opportunity. With characteristic determination, he improved the island's roads, organized a local administration, and began quietly plotting a return to France. His spirit remained unbroken. His mind was already strategizing his comeback. He clearly stated this philosophy: victory belongs to the most persevering. True to his words, perseverance brought him back. Escaping exile, he landed in France with only a small force. Yet within weeks, he inspired thousands of soldiers, once sent to arrest him, to instead rejoin him. His extraordinary return, known as the 100 Days, proved his resilience. Soldiers and citizens alike rallied to his side, captivated by his courage and the sheer audacity of his comeback. But even his renewed power was temporary. At Waterloo, he faced one final defeat. Yet again, despite this devastating loss, he did not abandon hope or dignity. In his second exile, now in distant St. Helena, he still refused to see himself as defeated. Instead, he reflected deeply, analyzing his mistakes and reaffirming his principles. He spent his final years dictating memoirs, explaining decisions, and passing on lessons from a lifetime of ambition, courage, and resilience. Even in this ultimate defeat, his spirit remained undefeated. He expressed clearly, "What is history but a fable agreed upon?" He knew the world might judge him harshly in the moment, but history would ultimately see him differently. He believed deeply that future generations would understand the greatness behind his actions. His final lesson might be his most powerful. Defeat does not define you. Your response does. He taught the world that great leaders aren't measured by their falls, but by their determination to rise again. By refusing to be broken, he ensured his story would live on, showing forever that true greatness isn't perfection. It's perseverance in the face of life's greatest trials. As we all know, history is more than just dates and events. It's about the people who changed the world. Get their stories delivered straight to your inbox. Please consider subscribing to my newsletter or leaving a tip in the tip jar. The link is in the description. Your help is greatly appreciated.